I want to talk about the pros and cons of having cash as an emergency fund versus using credit or credit cards as an emergency fund. So Dave Ramsey says, you should have at least a starter fund of about $1,000. And I had an emergency fund of maybe $1,600. Really more than that, but that was like more so dedicated to an emergency fund. But I had like a little extra money, and what had happened was I had a situation where I used my emergency fund, and when I did that, that cleared out my emergency fund. Trying not to like write too much because it makes that sound. But anyways, so then I had $0 in my emergency fund. I would probably recommend as a starter emergency fund $1,500 to $2,000 like within a year's time, because that's a little bit more realistic. But a starter emergency funds probably covers things like, maybe a ticket. You might get a ticket or something while driving. You might have to get your brakes fixed on your car. We're not really talking about like home improvement or renovations, or you got to get your roof done because a tree may have, I don't know. I'm not talking about anything that's going to cost you like 5 or 10 grand. We're talking about just things that pop up. A bill that you probably forgot to pay, and you get this collection letter that actually happened to me. I'm like, oh shoot. But anyway, so now you got to hurry up and pay off a bill or something or whatever. But usually it's probably going to range in around $500, $600 area. But there are things that obviously can amount up to $1,000. And when you spend that, it goes right back to zero. So now you have to save up all over again, however long that might take you, to build back up this emergency fund. Now, the good thing about it, though, is you can, once you pay off your emergencies, you can spend it and forget it. So once you spend whatever you need to spend on your emergency fund, you won't have to really worry about, how I'm going to come up with the money to pay it back, or I got to make little installments to pay it back. But the con is you have to still build it back up because you don't have an emergency fund at all now. If you are in that type of situation and then something else pops up, then you're going to have to borrow from probably family or friends. I know people like that. I would suggest, hey, you might want to get a credit card. Now, true enough, I don't really know. Well, I know some of their credit situations, and they can get like a startup card, but they're not into it. So that's a different story for a different day. They rather come to somebody else that they know, or me. And and I've been a borrower from a person before. And so what can happen is you can get money from a person, and lo and behold, something can pop up where you cannot pay them, or you cannot pay them in the time that you thought you're going to be able to pay them. And that could put a strain on a relationship. So we all know about how borrowing from friends and family can sometimes ruin a relationship. Some people don't talk for years, or they never speak again over $100 sometimes. And it's not always the money, it's just the principle. I had two people borrow from me. This is just a quick example before I move on to the credit card. There was a person, and both of them didn't pay me back. Okay. Now, the first person, she paid about 75% of what she owed me. But she did let me know. She kept me in the loop of what was going on. And then when I gave it to her, I already knew it was a possibility that you might not get that money. They said, do not lend out more than you can afford to lose. So I wasn't hurt when she couldn't pay me back all the money. And I got the majority of my money back. And she also kept communicating with me about her situation. So I just forgave her, like, just don't even worry about the last bit. Because I was in a situation where I paid the person all their money, but it was like a week, I think. I think it was a week or two where I couldn't pay them when I was supposed to, and it basically it prolonged me paying them back. So I understand that situations can pop up. Also, I had a situation where I was the borrower, and the person said I didn't pay them an amount when I knew that I did. This is a older person, and I'm not saying that the person wasn't in their right mind, but they were older, but I know that I paid them back. So I ended up paying them, I think, like an extra $50, just so I wouldn't, just to reserve the relationship. Like, if you feel that I didn't pay you or you forgot or whatever, here go the extra $50, just for peace, you know. So that can happen when it comes to cash. You can probably not have enough cash, or in some cases, if you don't have an emergency fund at all, you're just not into credit cards or whatever the case may be. Maybe your credit is bad. I don't know. It just can make relationships weird. And so that's definitely a con of cash. And actually, before I made this video, I was going to up having cash. I was going to prop that up because, you know, I like being able to just pay for something and not really think about it, you know. But that was, these were things, with the exception of the last two people that borrowed from me, these were things that I did before I really got into getting credit. I got credit late in my life, and I'm not going to go through the story, but I got it late. Never really thought to need it for anything. But lately, I noticed simple things that I would do would require, you know, institutions knowing my credit, be it signing up for, you know, to get a house, apartment, insurances sometimes want to know your credit, even a car rental, certain car rentals you need to have. I mean, almost everything is looking at your credit now. So I decided, well, let me start getting a credit card. And so yeah, so that's the downfall of cash. But if you have it, like if I just had cash and disposable income, of course I would definitely choose that. But more than likely, I'm talking to people that's probably a little tight on cash, or they probably don't have, you know, $1,000 put away, or 6 months worth of expenses put away, you know. So that's why everybody is doing a lot of financing. And, you know, the way the world is set up is almost makes it very difficult to just have money sitting there unless you really got some good income coming in. And so, and also, more than likely, what you might have on a credit card is probably going to be more than your income. You know, so I'm using $2,000 for income, and I'm using expenses. This is just like an example. I know people make more. Some people might make less, but this is just kind of a rough figure. And again, I try to keep the numbers semi-low because I'm thinking about, you know, the people that might work at, minimum wage jobs or gig work or something where it's kind of up and down. I'm not talking about anybody that like owns Amazon. I'm not talking about people like that founded, Facebook or anything like that. So yeah, more than likely what you have in credit, if you have more than one card, you probably got more in credit, especially if you're watching this video. It's a high probability that you have more in credit than you do with your monthly income. And so some people say, hey, instead of, they'll take it to a different level and say, hey, instead of just using credit as an emergency fund, some would suggest to invest. Now, the only way that it would kind of make sense to invest your credit, what you have on your credit, is if you can liquidate it pretty much almost for free or very, very cheaply. And there are ways to do it. Credit unions, tend to favor you being able to liquidate very cheaply or even free. But a lot of times you're going to have to go through a third party to even liquidate your credit cards and put it in some type of investment situation. So the reason why I hadn't done it as of yet is because I kind of move my money around a lot. So, just having it sitting up in a high yield savings account or something like that. I haven't really done that, which I actually plan on doing that, but right now I still need to get certain things in order. But yeah, I think if you're like when people talk about investing, are they talking about like investing in a business? Are they talking about investing in cryptocurrency, something that's kind of volatile, or are they talking about just letting it sit in a savings account? I would probably say like a savings account might be your best bet, like a high yield savings account. And shout out to that person that commented on my video about having a $2,000 emergency fund, because they ended up mentioning that. And they also mentioned cash back. This is supposed to be like CB. It don't look like a B, but they also mentioned about, credit cards giving you cash back. Um, I don't have I do have a 2% business cashback credit card, but it's statement cashback. It's not really like cashback that you can take out. It's like credited to your statement. But other than that, all my other cards are like 1.5 or rotating categories, 5%, or it's co-branded, so your what you're making is a credit to the actual company or the store or whatever the case may be. But most of my cashback credit cards are at about 1.5% or even 1%. I do have some 1% credit cards. Maybe like Discover It, we know that, you get that cashback match. And then after that, it goes to 1%. So I have cards like that where it starts off pretty good the first year, and then it's kind of like, that 1% thereafter. But there's no escaping at the end of the day. This is what I realized by having, cash just sitting there, disposable income, is that is no escaping replenishing your bank account. So even when you use cash for bills, guess what? The next month, you're still going to need money to come in somewhere so you can pay your bills the next month. And if you use credit cards, is no escaping replenishing your credit card, so you can use that credit card to pay your bills. And again, the only perks really with that is you do get, or most cards, or at least most cards that I have, there is some type of cash back. So that is a good thing. If you don't have like a balance, the cash back will cover that. So yeah, I mean, if you have the money, I still say if you just have disposable income, cash, I would just say do the cash, or use your cash to kind of spot your credit card spending, just in case something goes wrong or an emergency happens. You can just pay your credit card off with your cash. But I mean, you can do it that way too. But if you just have no choice and you don't have the 1,000 saved up, let's say you only have $200 saved up, and your emergency is $600 or $800, then I would say use credit card. But we all know you got to be careful with credit cards. You got to be responsible with credit cards. It's not free money, but it is reusable money because it's revolving credit. Sorry for the noise. It's revolving, so once you spend it and it clears, you can reuse it again. So it's reusable. I know it's kind of messed up. It's reusable money, but it's not necessarily extra money, And if you can, I try not to reuse it because I want to pay it off. But it's nice to know that you can reuse it if you need it, if you're in a tight situation. But that's all I got to say. Peace out. Oh, don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe if you want to.